In 2010, the president of a small Illinois college opened a letter and said 3 words out loud. Oh my God. He wasn't reading about a scandal. He was reading about a gift. $7 million from a woman who, as far as anyone could tell, didn't have $7 million to give. She'd worked as a secretary. She never owned a car. She bought her clothes secondhand at rummage sales in a town full of people who didn't. And when she died at 100 years old in a one-room cottage she didn't even buy, it was willed to her. She was quietly, secretly, one of the richest women in Lake Forest, Illinois. Nobody knew. Not her neighbors, not most of her friends. For decades, only one man on earth knew the real number, and he wasn't allowed to say it. This is the story of Grace Groner, and it's not really a story about money. It's a story about what happens when you decide once, correctly, and then you have the discipline to do absolutely nothing for the next 75 years. Grace Groner was born in 1909 on a farm in rural Lake County, Illinois. She had a twin sister, Gladys. At 12 years old, both girls became orphans. In small farming communities in the 1920s, that word, orphan, usually meant one thing: the end of your education, the beginning of hard labor, a life decided for you before you were old enough to decide anything yourself. That's not what happened to Grace. A prominent local family, the Andersons, took the twins in, not as charity cases to be quietly fed and forgotten, as family. The Andersons paid for both girls to attend boarding school. Then they paid for both girls to attend college, Lake Forest College, a small liberal arts school not far from where they grew up. Grace never forgot that, not for one single day of the 90-plus years she had left to live. Everything that came after, every dollar, every decision, traces back to 2 orphaned twin girls and a family that decided they were worth investing in. Grace graduated in 1931, English degree. The Great Depression was in full swing. Banks were failing, unemployment was climbing past 20%, and a young woman with a liberal arts degree was walking into one of the worst job markets in American history. She got a job anyway, secretary, Abbott Laboratories. She would hold that job for 43 years. Here's where the story could have ended, the way it ends for almost everyone. A steady job, a modest salary, a quiet life. The kind of biography that doesn't make it into anyone's headlines. But in 1935, 4 years into her job at Abbott, Grace did something small, almost invisible, the kind of decision that doesn't feel like a decision at all in the moment you make it. She bought 3 shares of Abbott stock, $60 each, $180 total, roughly what she could set aside from a secretary's salary in the middle of the Depression. And then she did the hardest part. Nothing. She didn't sell when the stock dipped. She didn't sell when it doubled. She didn't sell to buy a car because she never bought a car. She didn't sell to buy a bigger house because she never wanted a bigger house. Every time Abbott split its stock, and over 4 decades it split again and again and again, her 3 shares became 6, became 12, became shares she'd lost count of. And every time the company paid a dividend, she plowed it straight back in. She wasn't trying to get rich. That's the part people get wrong when they tell this story. Grace Groner wasn't a secret stock-picking genius running spreadsheets at her kitchen table. She was a woman who bought a small piece of the company she worked for, believed in it the way you believe in something you see close up every day, and then simply just let it be. Compound interest doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like anything while it's happening. For the first 10 years, Grace's investment was worth a modest sum, enough to feel good about, not enough to change her life. For the next 20, it grew steadily, invisibly, the way a tree adds a ring a year without anyone noticing the trunk getting thicker. Meanwhile, Grace worked. She rose to executive secretary for Abbott's president. She lived in an apartment above a movie theater the Anderson family owned. She never married, She traveled sometimes. She wasn't a hermit. She wasn't miserly for its own sake. But she never adjusted her lifestyle upward as her invisible fortune grew. She still shopped rummage sales. She still walked instead of driving. Her attorney and longtime friend, William Marlott, would later put it simply: she didn't have the material needs other people have. She could have lived in any house in the wealthiest parts of Lake Forest. She chose a small cottage instead, one a friend eventually willed to her. And here's the detail that tells you who she really was. The friends she kept because they liked her, not her money, because none of them knew about the money. There was no version of Grace Groner's social circle built on her net worth, because her net worth was a secret to herself in a sense. She wasn't checking a portfolio, there was no app. There was just a stock certificate growing quietly in a drawer decade after decade while she gave her actual attention to teaching, to church, to the college that raised her. By the 1970s, Grace retired from Abbott after 43 years, and she started giving money away, the same way she'd built it, quietly. She donated $180,000 to Lake Forest College to help start a scholarship fund. She gave to people in need around town, anonymously, on purpose. She didn't want the credit, she wanted the help to land. She volunteered as a secretary, unpaid this time, at Barat College and at her church, the First Presbyterian Church of Lake Forest. To everyone watching, Grace Groner looked like exactly what she appeared to be: a frugal, generous, slightly eccentric retired secretary who occasionally wrote a scholarship check she really shouldn't have been able to afford. Nobody did the math. Nobody asked the obvious question: where is this money actually coming from? In 2008, at 99 years old, Grace made one final, quiet decision. She set up a foundation. She named it after herself, the Grace Elizabeth Groner Foundation, and she transferred her estate into it to be released to Lake Forest College when she died. She didn't do a press conference. She didn't call the college president. She told her attorney, and she waited. On January 19, 2010, Grace Groner died at 100. And that's when Lake Forest College found out what 3 shares of stock bought for $180 becomes when you refuse to touch it for 75 years. Her 3 shares had split and split and split again. Reinvested dividends had compounded on top of compounded dividends. What started as 3 shares had become more than 100,000 shares of Abbott Laboratories stock. Total value, $7 million. The newspapers didn't know what to call her: the secret millionaire, the hidden fortune. Headlines that made it sound like a mystery, a scandal, a woman hiding something sinister. She wasn't hiding anything sinister. She was hiding the only thing she'd ever really cared about proving: that the gift she'd been given as an orphaned 12-year-old, an education, a chance, a family that believed she was worth the investment, deserved to be paid forward, at scale, to strangers she would never meet. Lake Forest College used the money exactly the way she specified. Not a building with her name on it in giant letters, not a statue. A foundation, funding internships, international study, and service learning opportunities for students who needed a chance, the way she once did. Her small cottage, the one she never upgraded, never expanded, never treated as anything more than a place to sleep, became student housing. They call it Grace's Cottage now. Her attorney, the only person who'd known the real number for years, finally got to explain what he'd been sitting on. She could have lived in any house in Lake Forest, he said, but she chose not to. She enjoyed other people, and every friend she had was a friend for who she was. They weren't friends for what she had. Here's the thing about Grace Groner's story that makes it different from every other secret millionaire headline you've ever scrolled past. It's not really about the stock. Abbott Laboratories happened to be a great company, and yes, that mattered. You can't compound your way to $7 million on a company that goes bankrupt. But plenty of people held great stocks for a few years and still ended up with nothing to show for it because at some point, life got expensive, or scary, or tempting, and they sold. Grace never had that moment. Not because she didn't need the money. Everyone needs money. But because she'd already decided, at some point long before any of us would have made that decision, exactly how much she needed. And the number was small. Rummage sale clothes, no car, one room. She let compound interest do something almost nobody lets it do. Work in silence, unbothered, for 75 straight years. The 3 shares she bought in 1935 weren't a bet on Abbott Laboratories. They were a bet on herself, a bet that she could hold on to a good decision longer than her own impatience, longer than her own doubt, longer than every reason the world would give her to cash out early. She won that bet for 100 years. And then she gave the whole thing away to the next generation of orphans, strivers, and secretaries who just needed someone to believe they were worth the investment. Every fortune has a funeral. Grace Groner's had a graduation instead.